Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudaya Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Ter Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 74, the deliverance of Shishupal at the Rajsuya sacrifice. Text number 25 on. Iti yuktva sahadeva bhuta tushnim krishna anubhavavit tachrutva tushtuvu sarve sadhu sadviti sattamam. So Sahadeva proposed that Krishna should get the Agra Puja, first worship, and then everybody agreed. Yes, yes. Shukdev Goswami continued. Having said this, Sahadeva, who understood Lord Krishna's prowess, fell silent, and having heard his words, all the saintly persons present congratulated him, exclaiming, excellent, excellent. Shrutva dvije ritam raja, gyatva hardam sabha sadam samarhayad ridhrishikesham prita pranaya vihvala. The king Yudhishthira was delighted to hear this pronouncement of the Brahmins, from which he understood the mood of the entire assembly. Overwhelmed with love, he fully worshipped Lord Krishna, the master of the senses. Tadpada vanijyata shirasa lokapavani sabharya sanujamatya sakutumbo vahan muda vasubhipita koshaya bhushnascha mahadhane arhitva shru purnaksho nashkat samvekshitum. After bathing Lord Krishna's feet, Maharaj Yudhishthira joyfully sprinkled the water upon his head, and then upon the head of his wife, brothers, and other family members and ministers. That water purifies the whole world. As he honored the Lord with presentations of yellow silken garments and precious jeweled ornaments, the king's tear-filled eyes prevented him from looking directly at the Lord. So much of love and gratefulness he had in his heart that his eyes were tearful. Ittham sabhajitam viksha sarve pranjalayo jana namo jayati nemustam nipetu pushpavrishtaya. When they saw Lord Krishna thus honored, nearly all who were present joined their palms reverentially, exclaiming obeisances to you, all victory to you, and then bowed down to him. Flowers rained down from above. Means all the demigods were also there, and they were very pleased when Krishna is getting out the first worship. Itham nishamya damaghosha sutta swapithant uthaya Krishna guna varnana jatamanyu utshipya bahum idam aha sadasya marshi sanshravyan bhagavate parushanya bhita. The intolerant son of Damaghosh became infuriated upon hearing the glorification of Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities. He stood up from his seat and angrily waving his arms, fearlessly spoke to the entire assembly the following harsh words against the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada writes, in that meeting, King Shishupal was also present. He was an avowed enemy of Krishna for many reasons, especially because of Krishna's having stolen Rukmini from the marriage ceremony. Therefore, he could not tolerate such honor to Krishna and glorification of his qualities. Instead of being happy to hear the glories of Krishna, he became very angry. And there was another reason. Shishupal got angry now. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that the reason Shishupal did not object when Sahadeva proposed Krishna for the Agra Puja is that Shishupal wanted to ruin King Yudhishthira's sacrifice. If Shishupal had argued earlier against Lord Krishna's receiving the first worship and another person had been selected, the sacrifice would have then proceeded normally. Therefore, Shishupal allowed Krishna to be selected, waited until the worship was over, and then spoke up, hoping in this way to demonstrate that the sacrifice was now spoiled. See, so much of envy they have in their heart. Thus, he would ruin the endeavor of Maharaj Yudhishthira. In this regard, the Acharya quoted the following Smriti reference. In the place where those who are not to be worshipped are worshipped, there is an offense to those who are actually worshipable. There is also the following statement. Improperly understanding who is to be worshipped and who is not to be worshipped will impede one's progress in life. So Shishupal was so envious of Yudhishthira, Krishna. So he wanted to destroy the sacrifice, ruin the sacrifice, and he was against Krishna's first worship. So what he says, Isho drutyaya kala iti satyavati shruti vridhanam api yad buddhir bala vakya vibhidyate. Shishupal said, the statement of the Vedas that time is unavoidable controller of all has indeed been proven true, since the intelligence of wise elders has now become diverted by the words of a mere boy. So for him, Sahadev was a mere boy. Yuyam patravedam shrestha ma mandhavam bala bhashit sadaspateya sarve krishno yat sammato arhane. O leaders of the assembly, you know best who is a fit candidate for being honored. Therefore, you should not heed the words of a child when he claims that Krishna deserves to be worshipped. Tapo vidya vratadharan jnana vidvasta kalmashan param rishina brahmanishthal lokapalescha pujitam sadaspatin atikramya gopala kulpansana yatha kaka purodasham saparyam katamarahati. How can you pass over the most exalted members of this assembly, topmost sages dedicated to the absolute truth, endowed with powers of austerity, divine insight, and strict adherence to severe vows, sanctified by knowledge and worshipped even by the rulers of the universe? How this cowherd boy, the disgrace of his family, deserve your worship any more than a crow deserves to eat the sacred purodash rice cake. Oh, that's really offensive. Of course, Acharyas, Sridhar Swami, different Acharyas, they give different commentary that actually what he said, Saraswati sat on his tongue and he meant something else. The term Gopal means not only cowherd, but also protector of the Vedas and the earth. Similarly, Kul Punsan has a double meaning. Shishupal intended it to mean the disgrace of his family, which is its meaning when divided as a group. But the word may also be analyzed as Kulapam, Ansan, giving a totally different meaning. Kulapam indicates those who prattle with crooked words contrary to the Vedas. And Anshan means derived from the word Anshamayati, means destroyer. In other words, he was praising Lord Krishna as he who vanquishes all misguided and frivolous speculations about the nature of truth. So also Lord Krishna is akaka in the sense that he's beyond all material misery and happiness, being on the pure transcendental platform. So obviously Acharyas, they churn out a meaning that is glorifying the Lord. But Shishupal in his heart, he's not glorifying. He is offending the Lord. Varnashram kula peta sarva dharma bahishkrita swairvarti guna rahina saparyam khatam arhati. How does one who follows no principles of the social and spiritual orders or of family ethics, who has been excluded from all religious duties, who behaves whimsically and who has no good qualities, how does such a person deserve to be worshipped? And Prabhupada writes, actually Krishna does not belong to any caste, nor does he have to perform any occupation duty. It is stated in the Vedas that the Supreme Lord has nothing to do as his prescribed duty. Whatever has to be done on his behalf is executed by his different energies. Shishupal indirectly praised Krishna by saying that he is not within the jurisdiction of Vedic injunctions. This is true because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's beyond, he's above everything. Yayati nasham hikulam shaptam sadbhir bahishkritam vritha panaratam shashvat saparyam pratham arhati. Yayati cursed a dynasty of these Yadavs, and ever since they have been ostracized by honest men and addicted to liquor. How then does Krishna deserve to be worshipped? So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, even though the Yadus were cursed by Yayati, they have been relieved, bahishkritam, of this curse by great saints, and consequently, they have been raised to a position of royal sovereignty by such persons as Kartavirya. They have been absorbed in Pana of protecting the earth. So Krishna, yes, Krishna doesn't deserve this useless worship. It's actually useless from Krishna's point of view, but he deserved it. But he took it because it was for his devotee. It was a Rasa sacrifice of King Yudhishthira. Brahmarshi sevitan deshan hitvaitya brahma varchasam samudram durgam ashritya badhante dasyavaha praja. These Yadavs have abandoned the holy lands inhabited by saintly sages and have instead taken shelter of a fortress in the sea, a place where no Brahminical principles are observed. They're just like thieves, they harass their subjects. So Prabhupada says Shishupal went crazy because of Krishna's being elected the supreme first worshipped person in that meeting. And he spoke so irresponsibly that he appeared that he had lost all his good fortune. So Vinashakale Viparita Buddhi definitely happens. Evam adinya bhadrani babhashe nashta mangala no vacha kinchid bhagavan yatha singha shivarutam. Shukdev Goswami continued. Bereft of all good fortune, Shishupal spoke these and other insults, but the Supreme Lord said nothing, just as a lion ignores a jackal's cry. Bhagwan nindanam shrutva dusaham tata sabasada karno pidhaya nirjagmuhu shapantasche dipam rusha. Upon hearing such intolerable blasphemy of the Lord, several members of the assembly covered their ears and walked out, angrily cursing the king of Cheti. Nindam bhagavata shanvans tatparasya janasya va tato na paiti sopi yatyadha sukritachyuta. Anyone who fails to immediately leave the place where he hears criticism of the Supreme Lord or his faithful devotee will certainly fall down, bereft of his pious credit. Tatah Pandu Sutah Kruddha Matsya Kyakya Srinjaya Udayudha Samutastu Shishupala Jighansava. Then the sons of Pandu became furious, and together with the warriors of Matsya, Kyakya, and Srinjaya clans, they rose up from their seats with weapons poised, ready to kill Shishupala. So this is Kshatriyas. They just don't take any insult, especially insult. Somebody is insulting Krishna. Tataish chadyat sambranto jagrihe khag charvani bharsayan Krishna pakshiyan ragya sadasi bharata. Undaunted, Shishupal then took up his sword and shield in the midst of all the assembled kings, so Bharat, and hurled insults at those who sided with Lord Krishna. Tavaduthaya Bhagavan Swan Nivarya Swayam Rusha Shirak Shuranta Chakrena Jahar Patato Ripo. At that point, the Supreme Lord stood up and checked his devotees. He then angrily sent forth his razor-sharp disc and severed the head of his enemy as he was attacking. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, if Lord Krishna had done nothing, there probably would have been a savage fight on the sacrificial grounds, and thus the whole ceremony would have been drenched in blood, spoiling the sanctified atmosphere. Therefore, in order to protect the Rajasuya sacrifice of Krishna's beloved devotee Yudhishthira, the Lord immediately severed Shishupal's head with his razor-sharp disc in such a way that not a drop of blood fell within the sacrificial grounds. So this is how Krishna takes care of everything. Shabda kola haluvathasi Shishupale hate mahan tasyanuyayino bhupa dur vurjivitashinaha. When Shishupal was thus killed, a great roar and howl went up from the crowd. Taking advantage of that disturbance, a few kings who were supporters of Shishupal quickly left the assembly out of fear for their lives. Chadyaddeho titam jyotir vasudevam vavishat pashyata sarvabhutanam ulkev bhuvi khachuta. An effulgent light rose from Shishupal's body, and as everyone watched, entered Lord Krishna, just like a meteor falling from the sky to the earth. So Acharyas remind us that Shishupal is actually one of Lord's eternal associates, playing the part of a belligerent demon. Thus, to most observers, it appeared that Shishupal achieved the impersonal liberation of merging into Lord Krishna's bodily effulgence. In fact, after being liberated from this mortal frame, Shishupal returned to the side of his master, the Supreme Lord of the spiritual world. So, for any demon, when they get killed by Krishna or Sudarshan Chakra, then their soul merges into the body of Krishna. But Shishupal and Dantavakra, they were Jaya and Vijay. So the soul merged into body of Krishna, and then from there it kept going to, went on to the Vaikuntha planet. Janmatriyanu gunita vyara sambandhya dhiya dhyaya sanmayatam yato bhavo hi bhavakaranam. Obsessed with hatred of Krishna throughout 3 lifetimes, Shishupal attained the Lord's transcendental nature. Indeed, one's consciousness determines one's future birth. Shishupal and his friend, not just friend, his cousin also, Dantavakra, who will be killed by Krishna in chapter 78, were previously Jaya and Vijay, 2 gatekeepers in Vaikuntha. Because of an offense, the 4 Kumaras cursed them to take 3 births in the material world as demons. The first birth was Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, the second as Ravan and Kumbhakarna, and the third as Shishupal and Dantavakra. In each birth, they were completely absorbed in enmity towards the Lord and were finally slain by him. Prabhupada says, although Shishupal acted as an enemy of Krishna, he was not for a single moment out of Krishna consciousness. Just like Kansa was always out of fear of Krishna, always thinking of Krishna. Shishupal was envious of Krishna, angry about Krishna, and he was always thinking about Krishna. He was always absorbed in thought of Krishna, and thus he got first the salvation of Sayujya, merging into the existence of the Supreme, and finally became reinstated in his original position of personal service. So even somebody is thinking of Krishna out of anger, they get mukti. What to speak of devotees who are always thinking about Krishna in a favorable way, in a mood of service, with a mood of service, and always serving him. Ritvibhya sasadasebhyo dakshinam vipulam adat sarvan sambhujya vidhivat chakre av bhritamekarat. Emperor Yudhishthira gave generous gifts to the sacrificial priests and the members of the assembly, properly honoring them all in the manner prescribed by the Vedas. He then took the Avabhrit path. So in this sacrifice, Rajya sacrifice, actually, Maharaj Yudhishthira had appointed Karna, because Karna was known for giving charity, as in charge of giving charity. And we can only imagine how much charity Karna must have given. And he took that service. And another point is in this ceremony, in this sacrifice, what service Krishna took? Krishna himself took the service of washing the feet of all the sages and serving them prasadam. This is what Krishna's service was. Amazing. Sadhitva kratum ragya Krishno yogeshwareshwara vas katichin masana Surudbhir abhiyachita. Thus Shri Krishna, the Lord of all masters of mystic yoga, saw to the successful execution of this great sacrifice on behalf of King Yudhishthir. Afterwards, the Lord stayed with his intimate friends for a few months at their earnest request. Although Lord Krishna is a master of all masters of yoga, such as Lord Shiva, still he was controlled by King Yudhishthir's pure love. Thus the Lord personally saw to the successful completion of the king's sacrificial performance. And after that, he agreed to stay with his dear friends in Indraprastha for a few more months, not just days. He just stayed. Tato anugyapya raja nam anichantam api shurah yayo sabharya samatya swapuram devaki sutta. Then the Lord, the son of Devaki, took the reluctant permission of the king and returned to his capital with his wives and ministers. Varnitam tadupakyanam mayate bahuvistaram vaikuntha pasinora janma viprashapat punah punah. I've already described to you in detail the history of two residents of Vaikuntha who had to undergo repeated births in the material world because of being cursed by the Brahmins. Rajsuya avabhritena snato raja yudhishthira brahmakshatra sabha madhe shushube sururadiva. Purified in the final avabhritya ritual which marked the successful completion of the Rajsuya sacrifice, King Yudhishthira shone among the assembled Brahmins and Kshatriyas like the king of the demigods himself. Ragya sabhajita sarve surmanava kechara krishnam kratum cha shansanta sudhamani yayurmata. The demigods, humans, and residents of intermediate heavens, all properly honored by the king, happily set off for their respective domains while singing the praises of Lord Krishna in the great sacrifice. Duryodhan mrite papam kalim kuru pulamayam yona sehe shriyam sritam drishtva pandu sutasyam. All were satisfied except sinful Duryodhan, the personification of the age of quarrel and the disease of the Kuru dynasty. He could not bear to see the flourishing opulence of the son of Pandu. Duryodhan by nature was very envious because of his sinful life, and he appeared in the dynasty of the Kurus as a chronic disease, personified in order to destroy the whole family. Srila Sridhar Swami mentions that Duryodhan hated pure religious principles. Yaidam kirti yed Vishnu karma chadyya vadhatikam rajamoksham vitanam cha sarupapah pramuchyate. One who recites these activities of Lord Vishnu, including the killing of Shishupal, the deliverance of the kings, and the performance of the Rajasuya sacrifice, is freed from all sins. Haribol. So we have studied, we have heard this, mercy of Prabhupada. So freed of all sins. So one thing is, do not commit the sins again. That's all. So thus ends the purpose to 10th canto, 74th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Deliverance of Shishupal at the Rajasuya Sacrifice. So we'll start new chapter tomorrow, Duryodhan Humiliated. So we'll stop here, see anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so you all have a safe and beautiful day. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.